From London, CERBERUS.
When CERBERUS first arrived in Heat N of Series 3, it demanded that you sit up and pay attention. Unlike many who built their robots for functionality, or perhaps to look like some token of inspiration, the Cypriots strove for beauty, sheathing their robot in brilliant shades of gold and silver that were unseen in Robot Wars at that point. It became an instant favourite of pit reporter Philippa Forrester and the producers, who shortlisted it as one of the 4 best designed robots in the series. Despite losing its hardened steel disc at the last second due to the Pussycat rule violation in the previous episode, CERBERUS reached the Heat final with a memorable campaign that few others could claim. A clash with kilohertz that would haunt John Reed for years, and a 10-second dismissal of Griffin that would earn CERBERUS the shortest battle record it would hold for 4 years. Receiving the 18th seeding for Series 4 off the back of its Heat final and status as a World Championship quarterfinalist, a run of dreadful luck literally took the head off CERBERUS' Series 4 campaign. Subsequent CERBERUS machines were never able to recapture the flair of the Series 3 version, losing their pedigree just as the gold and silver armour faded from gloss to dull matte. But when listing the Robot Wars supermodels, there's few robots you'd list higher than the dog from Hades, who had fans swooning when it first graced our screens.
London against Berkshire. CERBERUS, the London team. Glossy, shiny. Don't forget, has that steelhead ram to push Griffin into the pit straight away.
From Huddersfield, BERSERK 2.
It's rare for a bot to make its name. It's Marc in Robot Wars of just a single battle. Rare is still for them to be able to do so in a battle they lost, and walk forward with their reputation enhanced, but BERSERK 2 achieved this. Succeeding the team's super heavyweight bout, BERSERK 2 started its Series 3 campaign strongly, seeing off Touch Revenge and a respectable competitor in Alligator, using its effective rear-mounted lifter, for starring the battle ensured there'd be so much more than just another Series 3 also ran. Indeed, it was here that BERSERK 2 came up against Hypnodisc. After the horrors inflicted against Robogeddon and Stealth, no doubt many expected BERSERK to join them on that great scrap heap in the sky. But BERSERK not only took the blows, it shrugged them off. The most damaging weapon ever seen in Robot Wars to that point could barely leave a dent in BERSERK. It didn't really matter that Hypnodisc went on to win the subsequent judge's decision, that their hastily rebuilt entry to Series 4 fell all too easily to Tornado, or that their Series 5 entry Twister's failure in battle against Claude Hopper led to the first ever walk win in the show's history. None of this mattered because by this one act of fortitude, BERSERK 2 had already established itself in the minds of many as the very definition of durability, to the degree that even today people will tout them as matches for the Carbides and Tombstones of the world. The wisdom in such proclamations aside, the mere fact that people should think to make them shows that BERSERK 2's achievement still distinguishes them.
And that's always a worthy tactic! Knock it into the corner patrol zone of a house robot and see the great axe of shunt! But it just grazed the top of BERSERK 2 and the alloy body shell!
From Essex, CHERUB.
For a robot that featured in only one series and with 3 of its fights being short-lived affairs, it is impressive that CHERUB is as memorable as it is. How can it be otherwise when you have a captain with as much personality as Sarah Collias? It's not every day that Robot Wars team captains boldly state their plans to guilt-trip their opponents, openly at least. Compared to its fellow Heat semi-finalists, the Robot Wars veteran Behemoth, the explosive champion to be Eruption, and the devastating spinner PP3D, CHERUB was a different, more understated breed. The white and gold robot did a great job standing out just by being simple, but what really cements CHERUB are 2 head-to-head fights which had the internet ablaze within minutes of the closing credits. Whether it was the arena-shattering hit from PP3D that killed both robots, or the meltdown that followed CHERUB's defeat of Behemoth, long into the night, fans were raging over justifiable wins, judges being biased, what Anne Pritchard was thinking, and requoting the iconic Gary Cairns line, "She's up to speed now, boys!" But CHERUB's team took the backlash just like they took the hit from PP3D, and now that Series 10 has calmed the waters over Behemoth, CHERUB has settled nicely into the Robot Wars fanbase. What CHERUB leaves behind is summed up most poignantly by its Heat final, like the 6.5 seconds it took for Eruption to flip CHERUB out of the arena. CHERUB's run was short-lived but a very noteworthy one regardless.
Great power behind that blade, brilliant from CHERUB. So brave, young Toby. Doesn't shirk a challenge. Front foot all the way.
From Somerset, Ming 3.
If any one robot on this list went through the most revisions, the most wildly changing machine had to be Ming. Most robots on this list found their mark with their weapon of choice straight away and became synonymous with them, but Andrew Cottrell was the type of guy who'd play an RPG several times over just to try all the different classes for their hero, because every new version of Ming tried something completely different. These weapon changes were hardly in the expected order either. The original Ming tried the big spinner before it was cool, then switched to a front-hinged flipper design right around the time that the pioneers like Cassius and Gravedigger were changing weapons or retiring altogether. Ming 3 then boasted a big crusher for Series 5 and 6 right when the fandom was most critical of Razor clones, and then it switched to the long outdated drill weapon only for its final appearance in Series 7. You could genuinely reverse the order completely and it would make more sense, but by competing in 2 UK championships and more with Ming 3, the Crusher has to be Ming's signature. This version brought the team their biggest success, including a dominant performance in its Series 6 melee and an overseas tag team victory in the Nickelodeon series, even if it continually proved to be a magnet for flywheels in its various losses. Criticism never seemed to be far behind when talking about Ming, with Craig Charles constantly branding Ming 3 as a copycat, Jonathan Pierce belittling the team's Planet Mongo act, and Ming Dynasty's 15th seeding in Series 7 was met with wide disagreement from the fandom. Still though, these notches were indirectly keeping Ming in people's minds, and whether you realised it or not, Ming had already become a veteran of 5 wars and a Robot Wars mainstay. I give full credit to a team who dressed the part, built something new time and time again, and went out there to have fun. Good on you, Ming.
And Ming turns and spins and comes in very Razor-esque, isn't it, with that beak? Well, if you're going to copy someone, copy the best, and look at this! The Razor just cutting straight through Mega Morg's shell!
From the Isle of Sheppey in Kent, Major Tom.
If there's one word I'd use to describe Major Tom, it's goofy. It's one of those robots that brings a smile to your face when you see it. It wasn't designed to be particularly fast, powerful or tough. It's simply a fun robot with a fun, spirited team. Though the body and weaponry of Major Tom differed over the years, one thing that remained the same throughout was its signature head. Plucked from a plastic bubblegum dispenser, Major Tom's head witnessed a hell of a lot of carnage over the years, and the patriotic paint job was always there with it. Whilst only competing in 11 battles across 6 series, Major Tom is remembered more for its array of spectacular and highly entertaining defeats than its victories. Shunt decapitating Major Tom against 101 was the first in a line of many such instances, which also included reversing into the pit against Cat 3, its total destruction in round 4 of the Extreme 2 Annihilator, and being catapulted out of the arena by Tsunami in its final appearance. Not all robots are destined for glory, but in Major Tom's case, the glory comes from trying to be as entertaining as possible, and in that case, Major Tom may well be a champion of its own.
There's Matilda with the great chainsaw to hack into Major Tom's shell, and don't forget it's a garden water barrel, that shell. Oh! There goes the head! Lead the way! Oh! And all around you are losing their head. Can you keep yours? No. No, no, no. Out of the arena. Oh! Dear.
From Romsey, Siege number 7, STEG 2.
STEG 2, apparently short for Stegtuosaurus, was the successor to a former grand finalist in Stegosaurus, and is notable for being one of the biggest departures from a design that had originally brought the team great success. Although their core designs were similar, a box with a rear-lifting tail, STEG 2 completely shifted the focus of the vibrant green pusher Stegosaurus into the sleek and see-through STEG 2 with its powerful flipper. Indeed, this weapon was one of the strongest flippers in Series 4 by a wide margin, and STEG 2 was able to win its heat over past and present successes like Mortis and Iron Ore. Its powerful flips brought a lot of entertainment to its battles and made a name for STEG 2 distinct from its predecessor, really setting itself up for another deep run in the competition. Sadly, it's almost as though Robot Wars didn't want that to happen. Seeded only 7th for the 4th Wars despite finishing joint 3rd in the last series, STEG 2's campaign was cut short by a confusing draw against reigning champion Chaos 2 in the opening battle of the semi-finals, where it achieved a good flip but was ultimately knocked out. STEG 2 would not go on to appear in any side events of Series 4, not even the Pinball or Sumo. Ultimately, something like an Annihilator appearance would have really helped STEG 2 extend its career, as Rob Heisman would soon depart from Team Jurassic Park after the series, taking his robot with him, leaving the rest of the team to construct the fairly libs 3 Stegs to Heaven for their final appearances. Perhaps it's this which tells us how well liked STEG 2 was. One only need to imagine STEG 2 taking the place of its successor in the 5th Wars to know that it would have given us a good time. STEG 2 was a design like no other, and Robot Wars would have been better off had this dinosaur not gone extinct.
Oh goodness me, Shunt on the attack! And Matilda's toppled over! Steg 2 getting in underneath and showing us Matilda's underbelly!
From Shrivenham in Oxfordshire, Rough Dougal.
With clear inspiration from the Magic Roundabout, this big robot charmed the audience with its adorable and fluffy looks. In terms of weapons, all it had was a flywheel-powered spike, think a horizontal piston, and that wasn't enough to hold off any robots in its 2 battles. Rough Dougal lost to Gemini in Series 5, although it did hold on for quite a while thanks to its lack of base plate, and the moment the steam vent blew off its ears is truly one to remember. Rough Dougal then sported a pink overcoat for Series 6, where it lost to Tetanus and Cyrax, but still making it to the judge's decision. Expectations were always low for this robot's battle record, but it still made its mark by bringing some entertainment into the ring, and Robot Wars could never have enough of that.
That's brilliant! Here, what happened then? Well, look at this, Steve Benton!
From Leeds, Millian Bug.
Millian Bug at first glance was a very simple machine, armed only with ramming spikes, and was remembered mainly for its cute face and flammable hair. However, this Yorkshire lass was deceptively clever, housing a lot of innovation that robots had never attempted before and may never try again. Much like how a well can be cut in half and still survive, you could slice Millian Bug right down the centre and you'd essentially invent the first cluster boss in Robot Wars right there and then. Both halves of Millian Bug were in a sense two distinct robots that could drive independently of each other, which created a fantastic insect-like articulation when the entire robot moves. Aside from being one good hit away from being the first cluster boss in Robot Wars, Millian Bug even pioneered the entanglement device with her fabulous Kevlar hair having a secret purpose of clogging chainsaws. Of course, Minnie's innovations didn't exactly translate to a strong combat record by any means. The house robots couldn't help but take Minnie out of her Series 2 heats before she even got to fight, and then she completely blundered her first actual fight by pitting herself in Series 3 despite beating Bomberboss up to that stage. By Series 4, Millian Bug was a real staple of the show, qualifying without even having to attend an audition. She got an intense facial makeover from Pussycat in the first round, but still advanced, only to receive one of the show's cruelest defeats when Razor chewed off all of Minnie's wheels off one by one, like a horrible, maniacal schoolboy pulling off the legs of Spider. We wouldn't see Millian Bug again after this, but every single one of her Robot Wars campaigns left an impression, and well, to see that the shells still exist to say is fantastic. This is one bug you wouldn't want to squash.
And it's just a grim battle of survival for Millian Bug. They can articulate no more.
From Bedford, ONSLAUGHT.
While many a machine on the show were large, bulky and intimidating, Onslaught was quite the opposite, as its small, compact body bobbed and weaved around the arena. But this wasn't a negative. In fact, Onslaught's entire Robot Wars career was built on being unassuming, while still full of determination. Onslaught carved out a respectable first couple of years on the show, as it reached the Heat Final and second round in Series 2 and 3, but it was in Series 4 where Onslaught really proved its battle philosophy. Despite being forced to pull out of the UK Championships through mechanical issues, Onslaught was still ready to get stuck in against an Annihilator lineup consisting of the likes of Razor, Behemoth and Spawn of Scudder. The lineup was scary, but Onslaught's plucky nature saw it progress through the Annihilator, getting stronger and stronger in the process. And make no mistake about it, this wasn't your typical Annihilator underdog tactical plan from Onslaught. It would have been so easy for this machine to nip around but largely stay in the background, and yet it did the complete opposite, consistently getting stuck in wherever it could. To see this ant of a machine lifting over elephants like Behemoth and Spawn of Scudder was admirable, and every time it carried out an attack, you could hear the pleasant surprise in Jonathan Pierce's voice as he consistently cheered on Little Onslaught. Onslaught wasn't quite able to overcome Razor in the final, but its unique design and plucky attitude make it a charming memory of many a veteran fan, and for that, Little Onslaught holds its own on this list too.
Well, they were really under the cosh right from the word go. This is Behemoth and look at Little Onslaught! Behemoth had a go at Spawn of Scudder. Anything you can do, I can do better. That was magnificent. Little Onslaught on the attack on Behemoth, and again, they will not give up, the Onslaught boys from Bedford.
From Horsham, Barbarous.
Originality has always had its place in robot combat. Without originality, every robot would be the same and there would be no diversity, leading the sport of robot combat to get very boring. Now, it doesn't always work out well in battle, with many machines looking great but failing to make an impact in the arena. But every so often, you get robots that not only use terrific imagination, but can also dish out the good battles and gleam with potential. And that's where Barbarous comes in. The team were pretty ingenious, taking the idea of a barber's pole and turning it into a killing machine, and it was such a change of pace from the norm. When Barbarous debuted in Series 5, a lot of newer machines were trying to follow the meta, equipping themselves with big flippers, horizontal spinners, and deadly axes. But Barbarous took the idea of a spinning drum and did what no one had thought to do: make it a full-bodied spinner. And it actually worked! In its debut battle, it gave former champions Panic Attack a really tough fight, and despite eventually losing, Kim Davies would go on to say that it was one of the scariest robots he had fought at that point. When you make a former champion look nervous in your debut series no less, you deserve credit. And Team Panic Attack weren't the only ones that would see the impressive side of Barbarous in battle. Its first two battles in Series 6 saw Barbarous delivering the truly deadly, explosive blows that a machine like Hypnodisc would be proud of. And this was all while Hypnodisc itself was present in the same heat, and yet Barbarous was upstaging them in terms of damage. Barbarous's near Uta attack on Granny's Revenge, the killing of 4x4, and the shattering attacks on Cat 3 all within the space of a few hits just showed how good Barbarous was capable of being at its best. Sadly, Barbarous never did get to reach the hype and potential it had though, mostly because it was just as deadly to itself as it was to other robots. But as far as taking an original idea and making it work to a notable degree both visually and in battle, Barbarous hit the nail on the head and deserves its place on this list.
Well, they're very tentative coming out, aren't they? Cat 3, oh! Down came the axe, but when Barbarous 2 moves with a menace, it can thrust anything away. It has just tossed 97 kilos of Cat 3 across the arena.